So today, I can't tell you how great it is, how much you guys have lifted my spirit. So as I was getting ready to come to the studio this morning, I was like, I just can't pull up the energy anymore. And it's that, I think it's part of the dog days of summer remaining, but now that the weather's changing a little bit, it's like I was actually kind of cool in the pool this week. And it was refreshing, let's put it that way. It wasn't like being in a bathtub. But it was just hard. And connecting with you guys in Zoom is not my favorite thing, but it's better than not being able to see you at all and having a few people here in class. And today having two feels comfortable. So I've got my anchors here, Debbie and Jill. And so it's just like already I feel my energy just lifting. Already I feel it being a little bit more willing to come to the mat. I mean, I was to the point of like, could I figure out like a restorative? Oh, your knees cramping.
No, I'm scared so I can see that.
Yes, absolutely. This is connecting.
I like the things that are back one that we did that time.
Oh, when we did the stretch, I just want to stretch. Yeah, the deep, deep stretches. I know. And I think that that's helpful for us in these times because we're not doing the same things with our bodies we were doing before everything, the world changed on us. Yeah. So I thought about this notion of, so in Ashaya Yoga and Tantra in particular, the Tantra philosophy, is that concept of the place in the middle. We talk about it a lot in the teacher training. That's starting to wrap up. We're going to have Jill and Mary and Sherry going to be, they're already great teachers, but they're going to be check off, got their little diploma in September. So that's our final way. So I hope they'll start teaching. And at any rate, that place in the middle, and in the Buddhist tradition, they say that the place in the middle is the hardest way. And we see in our culture right now that it seems easier for people to like whap. I just call it either side, you know, and finding that place in the middle. And it's something I loved hearing about when Bernie Sanders was talking in some interview, and he said, I don't agree with everything about Joe Biden, but I'm telling you, this is coalition politics. We have got to come together. We've got to come to a place. And he said, I'm going to do everything I can to support him. And then once he's elected, I'm on him, you know? So it's like, and it's like, good. That's the way it should be, right? But he's always checks and balances. And that's where I feel like we've gone off the rails a lot, that you know, the country was designed to have checks and balances. Nobody could get too far out of line. And now it's just walked. It's just completely like a, you know, an out of round tire, you know, kathunka. And I feel like we keep getting hit like every 24 hours, a big whap or more often. So our practice then is about coming to the place in the middle. And that's about the steadiness. If we're only steady, that's boring. Because now it's like my life's pretty steady right now, actually, and I think I'm going to go insane. I'm looking for a little wildness. That's where the 6-year-old really plays out for me, because she's just still in the wild. But I used to be able to get that in a lot of other places, and now it's just, you know, it's so limited. So we'll practice with that place in the middle. So why do we want to work for the place in the middle? Well, when we get quiet, we notice the fluctuations, and then we can choose how we want to dance, where we want to dance. But if we're always up here in the crazy, or always down here in the totally steady and safe, then we don't understand the whole dynamics of life. And that's what makes it worthwhile. It's kind of like if you picked your favorite meal and you ate that every single meal, how long would it take before that was no longer your favorite? About 3, maybe 2.5, I don't know. It wouldn't not take long for us to have this, to be bored with the same thing over and over. All right, so let's play with that. Take a good seat. Do a nice manual inner rotation. So if you're wondering what the thin R immanence is, I finally remembered it. It's that little heel of the thumb right there, that little thing. Don't they say, like, if you squeeze that, that's what medium rare is, or rare? What is that? Remember? They talk about, I don't know either, but it's like there's places you can touch, and I forget which one it is, but that's one of the ones. If your steak feels like that, that's a certain doneness. That hurts. All right.
Your steak tester hurts.
My steak tester hurts, so no steak for me. And settle in. So now from my torpor, my stupor of this morning, I seem to be a tad bit ramped up. So let's find the place in the middle. And we find that by coming to the breath and celebrating wherever you are. If you're in the torpor, stupor, I just want to do 24/7 Shavasana, and that's okay, just celebrate that. And come to your breath. And settle in. And the place in the middle in the body is right at the xiphoid process. We call that the heart center, the bottom tip of the sternum, the steadiness right there. So draw everything into the spot, the heart center, right behind the bottom tip of the sternum. And with each inhale, fill the heart center with light. With each exhale, release whatever no longer serves you. And with each inhale, as you fill with light, the light globe gets bigger and bigger, begins to fill the whole body gradually as you continue the breath meditation. And the exhale, just release softness, easefulness, no longer hanging on. Inhale, fill with brightness. It's also a kind of sun and moon. On the inhale, you fill with the brightness of the sun. On the exhale, you're calmed and eased by the light of the moon. On your next inhale, draw your palms together in front of your heart center. Cleansing breath. Inhale to Om. On your exhale, flutter your eyes open, release the hands, and stretch it out. So we will start on your back. And before you guys at home go down and lose it, we're doing what I refer to as seagrass. And I'll show it to you. I'll show you guys too. But essentially, we start small and have space above you and around you. So if your arms are doing this, we'll start slowly and gradually begin to move to this, to a side. And you use a little muscle energy. The legs are soft, they're flopping over, rolling back and forth. So start on your back, and I'll get you there gradually. Knees bent, feet on the floor, arms out, shoulder height. And draw your knees up towards your shoulders, feet off the floor. Lower your right leg towards the floor, and you'll notice you'll start to roll onto the right hip, and the left leg comes with it. You'll feel a stretch across the left armpit chest, and start to draw a circle with the left arm, meet the palms together, and stretch the palm out long. Inhale, begin to draw back. Start with the arm. The arm circles back overhead. And you'll notice the left knee just naturally lifts, so give a little push to it. And the knees are wide apart as you come through the center. Then the arm. So notice, what's the natural progression? If you can keep your fingertips on the floor as you roll back and forth, that's fine. But if that hurts at any point, just lift it up, make it easeful. Little muscle engagement as possible. So as we go back and forth, easefully, feet are relaxed, toes are relaxed, head and neck, so very little effort. One leg comes over than the other, so the legs are not necessarily moving in tandem. They're pretty wide apart as they go back and forth. You can do this as slowly or not too fast, but at some point you get a little momentum once the legs come over, then everything comes with it. What you're doing here is massaging the back and waking up, warming up some of the joints in the shoulders, a little bit in the hips. Back and forth. And then the next time, if you throw your weight just a little bit, you can start to almost come up on one knee and then say, no, I'm going to go back down. It's kind of like, I'm not ready to get up yet. Come up halfway to where you're all the way on your bottom leg, and then just let yourself roll back. If this hurts at all, stay with the first version where you're not coming up. If you're feeling like you're hitting bones or something. And if you do a little throw the legs over, it's easier to get up. You don't have to use your arms. It actually takes you up naturally. And it gets a little more energetic. So watch that block there, Debbie, as you come up. That will curb your freedom. If you're looking for a sense of freedom, even though we still have the stability of the floor. And the next time you roll onto your back, begin to make it smaller and smaller, back to where you started. You probably crawled off your mat if you're doing this energetically enough. And you bring it down slower, quieter, until after a few breaths, you're pretty much done and the feet can come back to the floor, knees bent, and stretch the legs out. And notice just the vibration in the body. I love that. So when I'm unmotivated to move, this helps. Starting on the floor helps. Draw your knees in, roll to your side, and come up to hands and knees. It does nothing for hairstyles. So it completely blows your hair out if you have clips or ponytails. And then notice, so, ooh, yeah, a little thin arm eminence. There you go. Claw, but gently. And then rounding and arching the back becomes quite easy. So, when we've started class this way, sometimes I hear creaks and groans and tightnesses. And now after rolling it out on the floor, so some days I will confess that seagrass rolling around on the floor is about all I can deal with. And the next time you come through table pause, step your right leg forward. Keep the back toes tucked, wiggle the back knee back, and begin to do a knee down runner stretch. Use blocks on either side as you wish, but back and forth, straightening, bending, bending, straightening. Ooh. And the next time you come into the knee down lunge, step back and either do a puppy pose or a dog, or just change sides. We'll meet you on the other side. Then the knees down, haul the left foot forward. Blocks can be on either side to help give you more space. And straighten, bend, straighten. With the breath, exhale, straighten the front leg. Inhale, back to lunge. And light on the fingertips, light on the hands. They're just there to keep you from falling over, not so much to hold you up. And then the next time you come into lunge, come back either to a puppy pose where the butt's up, and the head's down, or full down dog. Actually, puppy, I'm going to recommend. If you feel like a dog, be a dog. Stretch out the shoulders here. Hug the elbows towards each other isometrically as you pull the shoulder blades onto and down the back. Oh boy, I need that. Inhale your way up. Come into a dog for a minute or two, walking the dog. So one of the things I've realized is that I never knew how much I used my thin R eminence, like unscrewing anything. I know, right? We just learn something every day. I love it. Exhale and begin to walk the hands back. Fold as deeply or not as you want right now. Inhale, hands halfway. Come up halfway, hands on the hips. Shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones. And inhale, rise all the way up. Oh my gosh. Stretch it up. And release. All right. Stand, you can stand to face me here in the studio, at home, do whatever you want. Turn away. I can't see that far anyway without my glasses. All right, feet hip width, hip distance. Inhale, rise up. So legs are strong, and exhale, lower the right arm stretch to the right. Inhale, back up to center, exhale, other arm stretch over. So this is a more fluid inhale, more like, so one of the images, certainly in yoga and in lots of Asian cultures, but in many cultures, wherever it grows, is the lotus, this little guy right here. And one of those there's much symbolisms about the lotus. The one I love the most and the simplest is it sends its roots down. If you've ever seen a lotus blooming actually on the pond, it sends the roots all the way down into the muck, into the mud, the deep, dark earth, to send up this incredibly delicate, beautiful flower. So sometimes we spend our time thinking about the muck. The next time you come upright, if you've evened your sides, come up, interlace the hands behind the back, shrug the shoulders, pull the head of the arm bones back, and bow forward either halfway or come all the way forward. Oh my gosh. And inhale your way back up to standing. Stretch it out. Come into a morning back bend, curl back. Upper chest opens. Feel the stretch in the upper chest, nothing in the back because the legs are supporting the freedom of the back. Inhale, rise up. So the roots in the mud thing that I like is that the legs, I work on that a lot, about the legs being strong all the way from the soles of the feet, all the lifting of the toes and inner thighs back and the tailbone down, yada, yada, yada. But that allows then the upper body to blossom and move, right? But if the legs aren't helping you, what's taking the brunt? Mostly the low back and it's like the low back takes it mostly when the legs are not working. So that's why I want to do that. Step to the top of your mat, facing forward towards the center of the room. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, prepare, step your right leg back, straight like lunge. Pause here, scissor the legs together and come up halfway. Keep the back heel high. So you're scissoring the legs together and taking the inner thighs back. That is the inner rotation, but you don't stop there. You don't focus on that, but that's the inner stability, drawing to the midline first. Then as the tailbone goes down, that's outer rotation, and you're pushing away. So you're both hugging in and pushing away evenly. That's the place in the middle, not going too far one way or the other. Inhale, rise up. The right hand takes hold of the left wrist, and you, wait, your right leg's, no, your left leg's forward, sorry. Arc to the right. So you're going a little off center. So from the front, looks like this. And you're stable in the legs, and how stable you are in the legs will guide how free your upper body can be. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, down. Step back, down dog. Step your right foot forward, straight leg lunge. Back heel is up, come up. Steady the legs. So again, you're pulling in first, sending the upper inner thighs back. Then the tailbone lengthens, doing a little bit of outer rotation to stabilize that. So it means the legs are scissoring together and pushing apart at the same time. Reach up. Take hold of, take a hand. The right hand takes hold of the left. No, left hand takes hold of the right. Thanks, Jill. And reach over to the right. Left. All right, just reach one side because we'll do it to the other side as well, right? Or are we reaching away? I reach away from the back leg. But what did I do on the other side? Did I reach towards the back leg? Well, do both sides. Sorry, got a little scrambled here. No, it wasn't. I just lost the bead. Release, step back, downward facing dog. Part of it is I changed orientation, and then I lost where I was. It's good brain exercise. Enjoy dog. Walk your hands back to your toes, forward bend at the back of your mat, hands on your hips, strong legs, open soft heart, rise up, and release. Step wide, you can face me, and turn your left toes out. The right foot is roughly parallel to the back edge of the mat. So when I say roughly parallel, what we don't want is we don't want the back foot turned out. So either neutral, or sometimes I turn my back foot in just a tiny bit more, takes a little pressure off the hip. So the front foot, your left foot is now your front foot. First scissor in, hug into the midline, inner thighs move back. Now counter that, tailbone down, outer rotation as you're pushing out evenly. Come to bend the front knee right over the ankle, stretch the arms up. Turn the palms up, pull the shoulder blades onto the back, and open. So you're opening the chest here. The back shoulder often wants to go forward. Keeping the palms up, keeping the arms where they are, just turn at the wrists with the palms down. Nice, warrior two. Reverse it, so the back hand goes down and takes the inner edge of the back thigh and lifts the inner edge of the back thigh up as you bend the front knee a tiny bit more and arc back away from the front leg. Look up into the mirror in your palm. Breathe. Nice. And release. Come up to center. Turn the feet parallel, hands on the hips. You may want blocks here, depending on what your hamstrings are doing. But come to where the back is long. Once the back rounds, then lift yourself up. So what happens is you might be able to get to the floor, but you have to round. The idea is that you go long, 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 and then at the very last minute, the upper body rounds. So the feet, again, are hugging to the midline, inner thighs moving back, wide apart, and then counter that with the tailbone moving down. And it's like the tailbone is bifurcating and sending out to the outer edge of both feet. As you're hugging in, you're also pushing away from the midline. And that keeps you in the middle. You can go too far either way. Inhale your way up to standing. Hands on the hips. Steady the legs. Micro bend the knees so you're not locking into the knee joint. Shrug the shoulders. Lift the head of the arm bones. Use the legs. Push down from the core of the pelvis and rise up. Turn your right toes out. Back foot is parallel to the short edge of the mat or slightly turned in, and play with that. You guys have been coming and your practice is strong enough that you can start to play with that. Like, I always say, my guidance is like stoplights in Dallas. They're just a suggestion. Maybe you stop, maybe you don't. I've seen more not. So first, the hugging in, hug into the midline, hug into who you are. And then we move out from that stability. The inner thighs move back, the tailbone lengthens. And so you're hugging in and pushing out. So try just here for a moment, hug in only. Feels pretty stable, but you're going to get a cramp at some point. And then try push out only. So both are great, but you need them both simultaneously. So now find the place in the middle, hugging into the midline and then pushing away. Nice, bend the front knee so it comes right over the ankle, pointing straight ahead. Steady your shoulders on top of your hips. Stretch the arms out. So you hug in as much as you're expanding out with the legs. The upper body then is soft and easeful. Shoulder blades slide down the back, rotate the arm bones back and down. The arms are soft and the elbows aren't locked. So if you have a tendency to lock the elbows, you just soften them a tiny bit. Fingers are soft. They're extended, they're engaged. And then reverse it. Reach for the inner edge of the back leg, the back thigh, and pull it up as you bend the front knee more. Pull up and over. Stretch to the point you feel this nice stretch across the psoas, the front hip flexors, the obliques. And release. Come back to center. Again, hug in, inner thighs back, tailbone down, and then the tailbone lengthens all the way to the outer edge of both feet and bow forward. Heel toe your feet in together, bending your knees as you need to. Feet are about hip width apart. Hands on your hips, bend the knees a lot, shift your weight towards your heels. Hands on your hips, shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bone. So a little cobra back in the upper body. Legs have to be strong here. So you're feeling more hugging to the midline, but what happens when you pull your feet apart here? So hug them in together without moving the knees and then pull them apart. You feel that? It's a tiny little, you're not pulling the knees together, you're just hugging to the midline, like hug the heels towards each other like crazy. And then without moving the knees, pull the heels apart. And on your next inhale, stand up, screaming quadriceps. That's what that's called. That's a translation of that in Sanskrit. All right, what next? Let's see. Good. All right, so let's do, this is one of, I love Caroline's takes on things, but this is one she came up with a long time ago that I've loved. I call it the Shakti tree. So if Shiva is the steadiness, the mud, the muck, that which nurtures us, the undifferentiated, it all is kind of dark and the same. So face me, yeah. Then Shiva is the consort, is the creative embodiment of that, coming out of that. So Shiva's the flower. I mean, Shakti's the flower. Shakti's like, I'm going to open up. I'm going to express myself. So when we do a tree, do a regular tree, and shift your weight to the left foot, turn the right knee out, and hug to the midline. So here's where hugging is real important. It's always important. And you can remind yourself what that is with the hands together in front of you. Press the foot into the leg somewhere, depending on how crazy you want to get, just not on the knee joint. Hug the outer hip in, it tends to want to collapse. So that's the hugging into the midline. And then how do you push out from here? So it's more about pushing down from the core of the pelvis, send down through the earth. That's the roots down into the muck. And from the core of the pelvis, rise up. So the legs are strong And we hold steady. When we hold steady, it's not to stop the fluctuations, but it's to be aware of them and release. It's just a pretest. Do the other side. Steady on the right leg. Turn the left knee out. The toes can stay on the floor. You can come to the calf, or you can come up to the inner thigh. For the first one, you might want to keep it more modest. Hands together, the hands press in as the foot to the leg presses in. Inner thighs move back, that's that inner rotation. And then the tailbone moves down to send the energy back down and open the hips slightly. You want the balance. From that steadiness, then you rise up. And you may say, I'm not feeling much steadiness right now at all. And that's okay, it's the first one, and then release. So here's Caroline's thing. On the second time, both sides, we'll do the craziest tree possible. So we'll just do anything you can to balance on your left foot. So shift your weight to your left foot and just come to your right toes and begin to throw your weight around. And if you tap the foot down, that's okay. But shake it. It's like, and kind of wobble out like you have ropes for the leg and the arm, and release. Where's my video? It's only on me. Okay. Other side. So you're steady, standing steady on the right leg, and everything else is going haywire, kind of like the world right now. 2 hurricanes, as Jill informed me, coming up together. Louisiana's gonna probably get a double whammy, and shake it off. Now when we go back to regular tree pose, check if your steadiness has changed or altered to see what letting the wildness take over, how it helped with the steadiness. So shift your weight to your left foot, hug your outer left hip in, foot comes wherever it needs to. Eyes focus on something not moving. Hug in, press the foot into the leg into the foot. Inner thighs move back, tailbone down mightily. And when you see the roots go all the way into the muck and the mire, all the way into that nutrient-rich mud, rise out of it. Be the lotus blossom at the top. And yes, it can sway. Ooh. So I was able to feel much steadier there. Part of it is you just keep doing it, the body figures it out, but I love the wiggles in between. All right, side B. Choose your position and be there. Hug the outer right hip in as the inner leg and the foot press towards each other. Hands press with the same energy. So it's not pressing too hard, it's just pressing enough. Inner thighs move back. You can move, if your foot's up in your inner thigh, you can push the heel back. Okay. Tailbone down, that's the taproot, the roots moving into the nutrient-rich soil, the mud, and then blossom out. Just be easy on the upper body. The jaw is soft, face is soft. And release. Holy camole. So if you notice, I'm not doing a lot of things on the thin arm eminence today. Just checking. All right, take a wide stance. Have a block near you. Do triangle pose, and then our favorite revolve triangle pose. Turn your left toes to face the short edge of the mat. Back foot here again, at least parallel, if not slightly turned in. And some of that depends on your knees. Some of it, if your knees are hurting, it's partly because the hips are tight as well. So we have to release the hips so the knees can do their job. Lift all 10 toes. Connect with the 4 corners of the feet. And notice on the back foot, the tendency is to roll to the inner edge. That's very stable. What about the outer 2 points, the outer heel and the ball of the foot nearest the baby toe? Then the front foot, we tend to roll to the inner edge on that. I do anyway. You might be different, but balance the energy. Then micro bend the knees just a tiny bit, like you're about to bend them. Inner thighs move back. Tailbone lengthens as the toes spread along. So as much hugging in as you're extending out. There's the stability, and the upper body should feel pretty good. The arms at shoulder height. And then take your right hand on your hip and stretch out like there's a chair or a counter. You might even have a couch near you at home. Just stretch out and press down isometrically. If you can touch something, fine. but press it down, and then that lifts up, the heart can lift up. Then the hand either comes to a block lightly, the fingertips are light, or if you're in midair, the arm is pushing on the inner knee is pushing back. It's not so much resting on the shin. That's a classic. You might see that in some training that you have, but that's actually just pushing the knee joint back. It's better to move here so the legs work, or come here. Top arm comes forward, pull the head of the arm bone in, and then stretch the arm up. Now push into an imaginary hand or a wall, like somebody's coming up to your top hand. Push into that to suck the armpit back and turn the heart up towards the sky more. Oh, triangle pose. Then draw the arm, pull it close in, and stretch it out for a big side stretch. Now work particularly to the outer edge of the back foot. And release the arms, I know, right? Look down and step the back foot up. You can, if your hamstrings are really tight, lift the back heel. Otherwise, you can have it partially lifted or all the way down, but the feet are like walking Egyptian. The toes are almost pointing the same direction. The block is, what's your front foot, the left one? Your block is where your right foot would be if you were standing right up next to your front foot. The left thumb hand goes into the left hip crease. Pull, so more outer rotation on the front leg, and the back leg is nicely, naturally inner rotated. So scissor together here first. That helps you move both inner thighs back. Then tailbone lengthens as you push away evenly. Lengthen from the pelvis to the crown of the head, and on your exhale, spin the heart towards your front leg side, towards the left. Now, in some cases, some days, all I can do is just come into the regular face forward. But keep pulling the outer left hip back. As you twist, the left hip wants to roll forward. So a lot of outer rotation on the front leg. Oh. And inhale, release. Come to push down to come to standing. Step the legs together. Shake off. So we're doing long holes. And last night I thought, oh, okay, the plan's okay. And this morning I looked at it and said, I don't think I have the energy to do that many standing poses, because standing poses are exhausting. They build heat and strength. And for some reason, you guys caused me to have the desire to do a few more standing poses. But we will stop in a bit and do some nice restorative. What?
It feels good.
It does feel good, doesn't it? It's sort of like why I go to classes or have a trainer, because they'll push me to do something that I wouldn't normally do. And I rise to the occasion when you come. It's like, all right, let's give them a workout. All right, back foot, either the long edge is parallel with the short edge of your mat, or slightly turn it in to where the knee feels comfortable. Work the four corners of both feet. Lift the toes, spread them, press them in. Those are the roots moving down through each of the corners of the feet. And then the inner thighs move back, tailbone lengthens. As the tailbone lengthens, then it's outer rotation and you're pushing the feet away from each other as well as pulling them in. Let's try a different way of coming into it this time. The hands on the hips, right at the hip crease. And for those of you who tend to hyperextend, be careful that you don't lock into the joint. So there's a little pushing forward of the shin. And actually, one way to do that is to put a block right there, and you cannot hyperextend when you do that. So Jill, that's a good one for you. Then straighten into it, like push, now extend out long. So you feel that, like you cannot release that. We don't want to use that all the time because we start to get used to it and not use the muscles we need to do it, but it gives us a sense of how the shin has to pull forward energetically. Fingertips stretch towards the block or the inside of the front leg. The leg pushes against the hand push, or the arm pushes against the leg, and stack your shoulders and begin to spin the bottom ribs up towards the ceiling. Top and bottom of the ears, and the hyoid bone, the bone that floats right at the top of the throat here, moves back. top arm comes forward, suck the armpit back in, pull it up, begin to spin and open more. And then thread the arm up. Big stretch. So push more through the outside edge of the back foot as someone's pulling your top wrist. Oh, big stretch as the ribs are spinning up to the ceiling and the low belly spinning back down to the earth. And release. Come to revolve triangle. Back foot steps up a fair bit. Heel can stay high, or you can place it down, walking Egyptian. The hand is, I put it on a block just because my IT bands are tight. If you can keep the back long and keep the fingertips on the floor, for me, that's just a tiny bit too much. Now, scissor together, hug into the midline. Inner thighs move back. Tailbone lengthens and you do a push out. So keep the hug in and then push out from the core of the pelvis. Lengthen the spine, draw the outer front hip crease back. So your outer right hip, the left hand's on the block, the right hand's in the hip crease. Pull the outer right hip back and just begin to turn the ribs a tiny bit. You start to feel more engagement. I feel this a lot on this side down the back of the calf, the back calf. Oh. Some of you might be feeling it on the front leg more. I did on the other side, but this side I feel it in the back leg more. And release. Ooh, spin to come back up to center. Yeah, you feel it in the hamstrings? Yep. Just funny how each side I feel a little bit different. On the other side, I feel more the IT band. And on that side, I was feeling a big stretch up. I was working a lot to the outer edge of the back foot. All right, let's come to the floor. So you do notice, even though you have to have core to do the standing poses, I have not done a lot of heavy core work today. That's not an accident. So turn with your heads towards the wall of feet, towards the center of the room. Come to lie on your back. Oh. Oh. Yeah, okay, good. Jill just said, okay, good. My body said the same thing. All right, just pause here a moment. So let's do sort of some hip openers on the back, since the standing poses can take it out of us. Come into half happy baby. Either draw the right knee in, either hold behind the thigh or reach the arm into full half happy baby where your arms on the inside, the hands on the outside, the baby toe side. Now notice that the low back curve gets completely smashed. What can you do to recover some part of it? You have to use the core a little bit here. The tailbone has to lengthen, but the sits bones have to drop more towards the floor rather than roll up towards the ceiling. And then if you have hold of the foot, you can either hold the outside of the foot or take hold of the big toe. See about moving a little towards straight. And if that's impossible, hold behind the thigh or behind the calf, somewhere behind the leg, and move towards a straightish leg. Now, just send a little bit of notice to your left leg and notice if it's gone on vacation and winged out to the left. It's common. So bring it so it's upright, just steady. And then bend the knee again, come into baby cradle, pigeon on your back. The arms, the hands hold on the outside of the shin, the right shin, right calf. What is that middle part there between the shin and the calf? I have to think about that. All right. And the elbow, the right elbow is snuggling and pushing the inner right thigh away from the ribs, away from the belly. Then get your low back curve back. You can straighten the left leg or keep it bent, but in any case, it's still working, not rigidly, but with stability, like you were doing this as a standing pose. That'll hold you in. You can do a deeper wrap if that's in your wheelhouse. And that means the leg won't straighten, but that's okay. Play the difference here. And then come into ride your Harley. So draw the right knee all the way across the body, pull the left knee up behind it. The heels drop towards the hips, the hands are on top of your knees, top of the shins. Slide your hands down the shins to hold somewhere along the outside of the leg, maybe towards the ankle. Flex the feet. Now get your low back curve back and snuggle your shoulder blades under the back, onto the back, so that you feel some air under there. Squeeze the knees gently towards each other and begin to press the shins up towards the ceiling without smashing the back. So if you press the shins too fast, the knees will come forward and the low back will be smashed. So play that edge from, and then the shoulder blades, keep moving them. Don't let this be a rotator cuff strain. Keep pulling the head of the arm bones back into the shoulder socket. Release the hands, keep the legs where they are. The arms come out in a T position. So whatever leg is on top, my right leg is on top. Roll, if your right leg is on top, roll the leg unit to the left. What? The leg unit. The leg unit, meaning, yes, I don't know where I came across that. I mean, I don't think I stole that from anybody. I'm not sure anybody would use it, but both legs, I guess, is one way to say that, right? Leg
Sounds
unit.
like you've been reading technical manuals.
Your unit legs, the leg unit. All right, like the family unit. Oh, the mother unit. All right, now from here, make this a little active. So you hug the knees together slightly, and then do a inner rotation, like you're trying to move the sits, the butt, broadens, it widens. Like, oh no, it's already wide enough. But go with it, it'll feel so good. Then the tailbone lengthens in between. So you do both, can you figure out how to do both a hug in and a press out? So the rib cage is moving towards the right as the low belly is moving towards the left, towards the floor. Shoulder blades both evenly weighted. Oh. Inhale, release. Stretch it out, flop it out, stretch the arms overhead. Just notice the difference between the two sides. And then we have to do all of that again on the other side. So draw the left leg in for half happy baby. Again, hold either under the thigh or full half happy baby hold, and recover some aspect of your low back curve. On the left side, on the leg, the lifted leg side, it's too many L's. That side, in this case, my left side, the back waist comes closer to the floor, and the right side, the non-working side, comes higher. See if you can steady that. In fact, I tend to shift all my weight to the left sacrum. See if you can even that. You can't totally, but work towards that place. You have to use the core to do that. Have you noticed? Oh, yes. And then straighten or straighten-ish the leg. You can do the classic toe hold. And straighten, and then get your the low back curve will smash to the floor like crazy, and see if you can get some remembrance of it back. Or hold behind the leg somewhere and just get a good hamstring stretch. Then come in for baby cradle, pigeon on your back. The left elbow snuggles into the inner left thigh, pushing it away as the right hand's pulling the foot towards the right shoulder, or pulling the ankle towards the right shoulder. Shoulder blades on the back, low back curve still in play. And straighten the leg. That actually increases the low back curve for me. Or if you take a deeper hold, that reduces the low back curve. It means I have to work a little harder to at least go towards that place. It will not come up, but I'm working in that direction. Just get a deeper stretch in the hip flexor. I'm really loving the pigeon on the back. I do love upright pigeon, and it will come back again. All right, now draw the left knee all the way across the body, and the right knee snuggles up to ride your Harley. Heels drop towards the bum, hands on top of the shin, slide them down, hold somewhere along the outside of the leg or the ankle, and then get your low back curve back and snuggle the shoulder blades underneath you. Now move the inner thighs back and really wide apart. Ooh, that increases the, ooh, okay. Let me drop the screen. I'll be back in a minute. No. need to, yeah, get a room, will you? Yeah. Could I have the room? All right, let's get back on track here. And then as you get your low back curve, flex your feet and begin to press the shins up into the hands, and the hands are pulling down. So there's a little tug of war going on there. Not so much that your shoulders are aching and over efforting, but you feel it in the hips. Keeping the low back curve, but pulling the ankles towards the shoulders. Oh. And release the arms in T position. So the left leg's on the top, the leg unit is dropping to the right. That pulls the left shoulder blade off, so snuggle the shoulder blades back on the back. The right hand can take hold of the top of the outside of the left knee and begin to pull it down, if that helps, or keep the arms out at shoulder height. So squeeze, gently hug the knees, the legs towards each other. Inner thighs move back, and now tailbone lengthens into the space. From there, in that steadiness, the rib cage can start to move towards the left. The gaze might even move a little towards the left. Don't twist the head off, but if it's comfortable to turn the head to the left, do that. And the low belly's moving back to the right towards the floor. Oh. Oh, and inhale your way back up to center, stretch it out. Let's do supported fish, just because my chest needs opening. And some of you may decide to stay here for the short Shavasana, but we'll stay here for a couple of minutes, and then I'll say you can transition to regular Shavasana, or you can go directly to Shavasana with the lights out of your eyes. All righty. Yes, it's always good. All right, so supported fish with a block. Now, if you don't have the blocks or your blocks aren't the right size, an option is the blanket roll chest, where you take the blanket and put it right at the bottom tips of the shoulder blades, the arms above it. That does the same thing, only different. Since I'm here, I'll stay here, but come to your chest passive. It's a passive chest opener. There are many ways to nirvana. Legs can stay bent, feet on the floor. You can even do a passive psoas release where you walk your feet a little bit apart, turn the toe really pretty big pigeon toe, and then knock the knees together. So you, depending on how long your legs are, you can go too far apart and you strain, but far enough apart that you don't have to use muscle energy once the knees are knocked together. And that gives you a passive psoas release and a passive chest opener. I'm into being passive here. As opposed to passive aggressive. And then if you want to stay in this position for Shavasana, do so, or roll over and remove the blocks or blankets and lie flat for the final few minutes. And the bones settle in and sink towards the earth. The skin, muscles, tissues, organs all soften and release. Come back to the heart center where we began and begin to breathe the light into the heart center. With each inhale, the light grows and fills. It's like a healing, rinsing light. And each exhale, you just release what no longer serves you. Begin to deepen your breath. And gradually, as the breath deepens, add movement to your fingers and toes. Begin to stretch it through the arms and legs. Yawning, stretching, anything that feels delicious. Gradually draw your knees into your chest. Roll to your side and rest there for a few moments, just enjoying the final few moments of nowhere to go and nothing to do. You have a plenty big to-do list. But at this moment, just release it, just for this moment. And be here now. And rolling a little more towards the floor, use the strength of your arms to press up. Sit well. And into that stillness, the steadiness, draw your palms together. Namaste. Thank you, guys.